Hello, and welcome to our fourth episode of the Atlanta recap for the Metagame Liberation Army. Today, with me is Constantine Andriotis, or Dean, or Pringlesman123, or I don't know, you probably have some other name somewhere.
Birthday Boy 123.
I was about to say the most important name. Birthday Boy 123, because screw Atlanta, we're not talking about any of that today. We're talking about how it's Dean's birthday. It's Dean's birthday today.
Woo! I got my birthday hat on. I got good wishes from people. It's my birthday, guys.
Exactly. It's exactly. Yeah. So Atlanta didn't happen. That's irrelevant. You know, it was like 4 weeks ago or whatever. It's Dean's birthday, so that's all we're talking about today.
Yep, nothing else.
All right, for sure. No, in all seriousness, so obviously we've been doing these recaps because we just want to talk with the Metagame Liberation Armies, but I think this is one of my most anticipated episodes because we have such an interesting topic for today, because your event was very different than probably anyone else there, right? Like, I don't think people go into the event with the same goal that you had for the event, so I want to start with that. So since your focus was different, why don't you just go ahead and take it away and talk about what your focus for the event was and why?
Gotcha. So, going into this event, I really just wanted to use it as a sort of training ground for a deck list where, we don't always get opportunities to play in 8-round tournaments. You know, we only have so many regionals in a year, so many big events to play in. And so I use this as an event as a testing ground for a deck list that I hopefully and did gather some information so that it'll improve my deck building and technical play for future events.
Yeah.
And, sorry. I
ahead,
went too long on the pod. Just that I'm sure there was some other chefs in the room that were just playing some shit. They were like, you know what? I want to play this. I want to see what happens type of thing.
Yeah, I certainly think that people were definitely cooking. I definitely know that I talked with some people that were definitely playing their favorite brew and like hope, and they expected to do well, right? And I certainly don't think you expected your deck to not do well. But what was really significant about your deck is you were making changes the day before. So yes. I want to fast forward because like we already know that this was your testing ground. So there was certainly testing you did beforehand. But I know from our testing that it was mostly helping us out. Like you were very undecided on what you wanted to play leading up. A little bit of like just like choice paralysis, if you will. So you were making changes all the way up till the day before. So spoiler alert, you decided to play Elder Toguro, but your deck was not finalized. Lead me through the day of, or the day before rather, the event, and making some changes to your deck and the testing that you did that day.
Right. So is it fine if I started like the beginning of that week, like the Sunday before the event?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. So like, so we'd been doing some testing. Some of it was just like playing meta decks into other people's stuff. So like, Rodan's, Ryuku's, Godzilla, or like Smiling. And that was more so just to like get a grasp on stuff. But what I'm constantly trying to do is just play some sort of evil character. I really enjoy the evil symbol, and I also just have some sort of camaraderie with it with people. It's like very fun to have that connection with people. Like the evil symbol, we're so
You're
back,
the evil
baby.
guy. Like it is what it is.
Yeah, the evil. There's a ton of evil guys, But
exactly.
So like I was really trying to explore that, right? And so we didn't get any evil cards in. For most of the year, there's some good ones, Combined Firepower, and like Incubating, but AOT did not give us any of those. So I'm looking at characters for their attune symbols. So like I was looking at Overhaul for life attune cards. I was looking at Mimic for chaos attune cards. I was trying Rappa for some of the fire attune cards. Some of the death attune characters, right? Obviously Risky was a very good card for the format for that event. So like Mineta 2, Younger Toguro, Elder, and with a lot of the characters that I put more time into the deck list and played games with, I really just like didn't like how it was going in the either how I like when I was playing it, I didn't really enjoy the feeling of the deck, and also strategically I was just like, this doesn't really feel that good. I'm just kind of coin flipping, I would say, at like the 50-50 spot. I didn't feel like I had any particular advantages. And so Elder was a character that I had not toyed with that much during testing, but I think we all can agree is a good one. He's a powerful, like a powerful form ability, as well as just a really solid defensive ability, assuming your opponent's not giving parallel stats.
I think most people can't deny that having any ability to tutor your discard for any card is really good, right? Like Risky was really good, Combined was really good, Ghidorah's been really good. Obviously, part of that's the head thing. Part of that's like I always have a good one if I need it, right? But
exactly, yeah, and that's also like I enjoy Mimic a lot, but one of the characters I tested a lot for the event, it felt even more variance with him where. Not only do I have less control over when I pick up the cards from the attacks from my grave, but there's also just the variance of how weird games can be depending on your opening build, where you have way less agency over that if you don't build enough assets or you don't find the good ones.
As a fellow Mimic player, your first turn really feels like it drives the game, and you'll either have the best game ever or the worst game ever. The variance on it can suck.
Yeah, and so like with Elder. There's a clear defensive strength starting. I always have my character, and it's not very hard to have 4 foundations that you can build on turn 1 in a 7-hander. Right? I don't need to hope to draw the right assets.
Yeah, you don't have to hope to draw trigger.
Exactly, and so with that sort of background in mind, I was like, okay, Elder. Strategically makes some sense. He's a really cool character, a really powerful character. I have not played him in an event, so I'm just gonna lock in on this guy Sunday night and be like, no more dilly dallying. I guess these are the cards I'm packing for Atlanta, and I will submit a deck list at however late I'm allowed to. Which yeah. And so. So that was Sunday, and then as I guess the next point on this storyline is like Thursday, because at least that was when I got in. Yeah. And so this was also a fun part of the event was that Thursday and Friday I essentially got to collab with other members of the community, other players from different teams about Elder Toguro ideas. So Thursday, I was mainly talking to Zach Richards from Team Final Round Game Shop and Colby Cram from Unfun Stuff. And, even if we didn't necessarily agree on all the card choices that were being suggested, but I always enjoy that stuff because it's just getting to talk about these decks in the game is always a blast. Yeah, and so, exactly. So like that kind of navigated some of my decision making for the deck, and that continued into Friday where I got to talk to some more people about the deck outside of the team. So I believe it was Barlow from Team Couple and Bromley and Barrett. Bryant were people I talked to on Friday about the deck, and you get a lot of different views. Like there was the idea of the Hiei 2-check attack that if you're at, I think, 10 or less health, you can discard from your hand for powerful. Yeah.
Does it have sword in the name? I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can look it up while you. But they all do. Yeah. But so there was that suggestion as using paying the cost and some of Evil's other life loss abilities to get to that threshold and then use that as a means of killing people. Another thing was how good Final Exam Gutshot is, and the idea that Elder Toguro is a mill deck, which unfortunately, spoiler, he is.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't want him to be, but Final Exam Gutshot is a very, very powerful card in him. Yeah. And so, there's just these different ideas as how to approach it. And where I had landed on before, or as I was submitting the deck list was essentially a deck with 3 different plans where my main initial plan for winning the game was repeatedly playing True 100 Unleashed because I think that card's really messed up. I really like the idea of if you're going to an event, you should be playing the cards that you think are unfair. And so True 100 was that for me. And I, understandably, it is weak to the same things that beat Smiling Titan. But my idea was it doesn't cost me anything to make this card big. I can use my form, play it every turn. It's just like a big move you have to answer. And if you can't answer it, with a trick, you will hopefully tap your whole board to block it. Or, take 10 something damage.
Yeah, which sets up the rest of your turn. And then having played into Elder playing that card, you also are more resilient to the answers because it's like Barrier Shield. All right, cool. Swap stats, give it 3 or 4 damage. And it's like, well, you just wasted your Barrier Shield, theoretically, right? Because I still got an amount of damage. I still did something, right?
Yeah, he's a very tricky character, so yes, exactly, that he's able to navigate these sort of game states. And then the second plan was if I wanted to punish an opponent that was only respecting True 100 by playing very loose defense and just holding one reset, I wanted to rely on Evil's echo attacks and as a means to string out against them and punish them for their lack of cards to block with. So that was Double Fist of the Mortal Flame and Tetra Terror Onslaught as a means of just, I'm just going to play 6 or 7 attacks on you this turn. And hopefully that will get the job done because you have disrespected this version of the game.
Gotcha.
And then the third game plan was Final Exam Gut Shot is just
being a mill deck.
yeah, literally. Because I do think there's some matchup at the start of the event. I was like, there is some number of matchups that you want to be a mill deck. Now I'm kind of convinced that you almost always want to be a mill deck. Which,
which I think is personally a sucky way for that character to fall into. But also I don't know. I think when you're playing a control character, you have to have an unbeatable game plan. And mill sure is unbeatable. If you mill out and you can't play more cards because you lose the game, you've lost the game, right? But I can understand where we are trying to lean away from that most of the time because that some people is a very fun way to play the game, to others is less so. Was there anything else that day before the event, before we get to the event itself, that really struck out, or that any test games that were that you thought were pivotal or set you up for even more success in your goals for the day of the event?
I don't think I have any individual test game that shifted stuff. It was more the conversations that would happen after the fact about ideas.
Gotcha.
Because pretty much after any of the games that I played Thursday and Friday, I would then spend time talking to the people that I had mentioned. That was it was mostly just the communications with people.
Gotcha. So that was what was pivotal, that kind of made up your realistic start of the event, right? Because the event, if you think about it, can start when you get there. But moving on from that, and moving to the day of the event, we did the last few episodes. We focused on getting up for the event, but I think we've gotten everything we can out of that. I think I just want to jump into your rounds and figure out, all right, where did the deck succeed? Where did it fail? And how did the whole day go for you? I think that's the important question that would be on everyone's mind for that.
Yeah. So, I guess I'll go in order of the rounds and then
Sure.
How the out of 10 recap at the end of Saturday. So round one, I played against a Death Reiner. This was Reiner 1 because at this point we did not have Reiner 2. And his game plan was mostly focused around Foundation Destruction. He was playing a lot of the Kirishima cards that either debuild the opponent or give him more resources so that he could flip faster, while keeping his opponent on low resources. And unfortunately for that archetype, I think the attack packages, if you know it, isn't really hard to block. It's mostly just mids and highs.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so it was easy to defend against that just by blocking. And another strength of Elder and his kit is how good Immortal Shapeshifter is. And that specifically into a Foundation Destruction deck gave me way more effective health than just the 20 that is printed on Elder.
Yeah.
And so I end up winning that round. Game 1 did feel a bit tooth and nail because Reiner's was able to flip, and his commit ability is very good into True 100.
Yeah.
But I managed to get game 1 after essentially a slog because I'm playing a control deck, and his deck was not that version of Reiner is not particularly aggressive, and it is not a good wall breaker. And so after getting game 1, game 2 was essentially him forced to make plays, because if he can't win the game in set amount of time, I will just walk away with the win. And so because he is forced into that position, I was able to get game 2. So we start off with a win, and I guess I should mention that Final Exam Gutshot was very funny in that matchup, in that I played it twice and in game 1, and each time he milled 8 foundations, and then surprisingly the next turn he was able to play 3 or 4 attacks. So
turns out he had all the attacks in his deck.
Yeah. So there is some consequences if you mill their foundations, and now they can only draw attack cards. So mill just sucks, I guess.
True.
So round 1 we walk away with the win. I'm feeling that wasn't a deck I was necessarily fearing from the event. So I'm still feeling comfortable at Elder.
Yeah, which I want to take one quick moment because a part of the motivation for this whole series is convincing more people to go to events and trying to ease some people who are nervous to go to their first event. And I want to point out to people, I think we've touched it a little bit in the other episodes, that's going to happen a lot, right? There's going to be a lot of times, you will just see something new. You'll see something you've never seen before, which, is really cool. Because I think a lot of people get focused on being scared of Smiling Titan and being scared of, for that event with Smiling Titan, being scared of Ryukyu, being scared of Rodan. Those were, the 3 big ones I think people were scared of. And it's you might see those. You might go the entire day without seeing one. I mean, I didn't see Smiling Titan all day. I don't know if you saw Smiling Titan. And you might just see, Death Reiner as your first matchup. And it's you get to have a lot of fun playing new matchups. But, which also I think might have been the motivation, right? Because, where else are you going to get 8 perfect rounds of, unique matchups, right?
Exactly, right? Because, we can doom and gloom about matchups, but I think in our community it is not... of the events I have gone to, I have not played against the boogeyman of the format every single round.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I have not played against the boogeyman at said event anyway. And that'll sort of come into play as my round report goes on, where it's very clear why I did not play against a Smiling after the first 3 rounds. I think it was sort of guaranteed I would not face Smiling after that. Round 2 was into Earth Ryukyu, and the major strength, I think, there's a lot of things about Ryukyu that are very good, right? But something that is very good about her, I think, into some of the control decks, is her 5 diff being able to keep flipping her opponent's resources while also generating her a ton, right?
Yeah. That's the main idea for sure with your trading pattern for that deck.
Yeah, and while the Earth one doesn't do it as well as the All version, that was still a consistent thing in the matchup, where I was getting my foundations flipped, my shapeshifters were getting flipped, so I can have that effective 30, 35 health that Elder can find. But a pivotal part of the deck that Evil has over Death is Maximum Overhaul is very good if your opponent's trying to flip all their stuff, or all your stuff. And so I was able to find my Maximum Overhaul early enough that in this early mid-game where Ryuku's accruing her resources of momentum, trying to set up her Armor the Wolf or whatever string otherwise she was trying to find, I am keeping my stage face up, filled with the defensive tools that it needs, thanks to Maximum Overhaul each turn, just rebuilding.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting part that was thanks to talking to, I believe it was Bromley and Barrett who had mentioned the card to me, where like I like Maximum Overhaul, and I'm constantly thinking about that card for Evil decks, but I'd moved away from it for Elder, but it is very good for him against decks that want to flip your stage as their means of interaction.
Yeah, which I think that was a big thing at Atlanta specifically. Is I think flip your entire stage wasn't absent at Atlanta by any means, because Ryukyu obviously does it very well, but I think there was other decks that were doing it decently well. I think there's that like Smiling's Death card that like hits graveyard, and those were all, any hit graveyard card was like pretty rampant for Atlanta. And I also know from like Max Overhaul that like we had been talking about that all the way as early as like Mimic, just for the or not. We're talking about it for Mimic or for someone else. Do you have to for the pickup ability?
Play a card. You have to play a card from somewhere other than your hand.
Okay.
And this year we've gotten a lot of cards that help you do that, even if your character can't do it. So yeah.
We were talking about it for Mimic for combined firepower. So like you Mimic, you play it, and then you combine firepower, and then you do that ability as like an answer to like Hacker. So like that's just to show it was certainly in your mind, and it's like very awesome that Bromley and Barrett brought it back into your mind, because I think it had left, like you said, for that deck, and it sounds like it was pivotal. So
yeah, in that matchup specifically, it was very good. And so we sort of so that was mostly the song and dance of like the early turns of it, but the way I was able to close out games against the Ryukyu deck was thanks to Villainous Teamwork as an answer to VME. Being able to deny that from her is very important. And Elder can obviously find that card whenever he needs it, so you do not have to max out on it. And the string part of the deck came in very clutch against Ryukyu in this matchup, where I was able to sort of overload her with the echo attacks and then stringing it into Risky at the end of it to close the game out. And that was sort of the name of the game with it, where that's what was able to overpower Ryukyu. Let's see. So now I'm 2-0 going into round 3, and I play against Void Edgeshot, which I like that character a lot. I just do not explore him enough. He's not on the evil symbol, so I gotta decide who I want to play.
We can't look at him, it's like
yeah. Someone else, the Void good and Fire players got to crack that guy wide open, and I'll probably give him a try. But it was a really cool if you have played against a review style, Mount Lady or Edgeshot on the Void symbol like this, it was that deck, right? Like it was Titan Cliffs, it was Cannons. This one was playing Thousand Cheat Pierce. I know some people stray away from the 2-check, but right, like he was. I think this is like a very normal Void review deck kind of thing, right? Nothing too crazy. And so, game 1 was essentially just. I would call his deck a control deck just by nature of the Void symbol and being a 7-hander, like the amount of tools they have to stay alive.
Yeah.
And so it was, again, just like control decks kind of meandering into each other with not too much going on in the middle of the game. In the early turns, we're just... If we're playing a poke, it's sort of to sculpt our hand or get some sort of value in some way. I can't remember now, but I might have been using Tremor Eruption to flip some of his stage in this game, which is one of the Overhaul's starter deck attacks that if you've played it from somewhere else, you can target flip one of your opponent's foundations.
Yeah.
And so
like basically our version of like Ryukyu's attack.
Yeah, actually. At least on the evil symbol, because you can play it on the life, but yes. And so what sort of broke the game open was Edgeshot finally gets a turn where he goes to break serve. And this is where he starts playing a bunch of his review attacks in a singular turn. And a little bit of luck on him not finding attacks with the card draw that he used, and then also the strength of Elder's defense, as well as some of the evil cards like Barrier Shield. He was not able to win on that turn, and it basically left him defenseless. And so I was able to kill him on the crackback on the following turn with one true 100 unleashed for exactly 19 damage. So that
Jesus. Yeah. That game must have been so going for so long then, like So just plus 16 damage on a true 100. That sure does just kill him, right?
Yep, exactly. You just need one. So that was a fun moment of that game. But then I believe we did not get to game 3 again because something that will keep occurring in this tournament is that Elder is a very oppressive defensive deck, so it can really drag games through a slog, and make get you closer and closer to time. So we start game 2, and it is similar to round 1, where it is very apparent that if I don't die, I don't have to do anything to walk away with a win this match.
Yeah,
because I have won game 1, and so he let's see, I believe time is called on his turn, so we're good, we're chilling, he gets his time to play out his turn. There's no bad blood of being rushed for stuff. Unfortunately, I just played my defensive tools wrong into him. I used a barrier shield when I just shouldn't have. He had pass through walls in his stage, so spending the card to
breaker
was not worth it.
Gotcha.
And additionally, I think it was he started with Titan Cliff, and I had an invincible body in my stage, and I should have used that first, because if anyone's familiar with if you're familiar with the Void review deck, or any of the Void decks, I think at this point you will likely see Ice Sword Execution, and I just knew he had that card anyway from game 1, but because he has Ice Sword Execution, I should have just Invincible Bodied the first move, so his Ice Sword loses value, and I can just block that one.
Yeah. As long as you don't have any other pivotal pieces in your stage that you need not committed.
Yeah, and for the most, I'm fairly certain there wasn't. It was basically I just needed to block one more move, and Invincible Body would have meant that. And so, because of that mistake, he gets game 2. We do not have time for a game 3, so I now walk away with a tie. And that's the name of the game, baby. That's my fucking tournament experience.
Oh. So let's fast forward a little bit. What ended up being your final record for the day?
Yeah, so my final record was 4 wins, 2 losses, and 2 ties. And
gotcha.
Because of that tie in round 3, I believe it almost guaranteed I was never going to fight a Smiling the rest of the day.
Oh, I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah. And so that tie meant that I then played into another control deck, and we tied. And then that tie continued. 2 ties seals your doom for sure. You are only playing against control decks for the rest of the day at 2 ties.
For sure. It is. Yeah. I remember I was scared with my own day. Obviously, I had a slightly different goal because I took, first off, a deck I didn't build, right? I took Jacob Johnson's deck. I made one card decision that he agreed with and also made for his own deck, so we did end up having the same deck. But I remember round 3 or 4, I got my tie, and I was pretty terrified for the rest of the day. But I definitely didn't think about the fact that it locked me out of Smiling Titan, which is good because that deck isn't perfect into Smiling. It should be Smiling, but I sure do have to find a VME and every single blink in my deck so that I have free momentum, right? But yeah, so so your very next round was also a tie. Was there anything that you learned from that round specifically, or?
So I can sort of encompass all the matchups after, because quite literally rounds 4 through 8 were just control decks.
Gotcha.
And so grand scheme goal is I need to play test into more control decks if I want to play a control deck. There was a lot of I believe a lot of my losses into the control decks were me just fucking up at some pivotal moment.
Yeah.
I would place that issue not on that I can't see that line, but I'm just trying to think about too much
Yeah.
And so in doing so, I like overload myself. Like a lot of the mistakes were, I want to call noob mistakes because they were just like basic math issues or like not finishing the thought of like, oh, I'm going to play around barrier shield here. But then the way I play the turn does not play around barrier shield.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, yeah.
I mean, as you get going throughout a day, let alone a day where you're trying to explicitly play or have more of a testing mindset, like it just gets harder to keep track of everything. I think the hardest part about a control game, if you only look at the game itself, is the fact that there's just going to be things that you miss. There's going to be things you don't play around correctly, and there's going to be things you don't think to play around. And like that's what control matches are won and lost on. And like they're the really hard part. Let alone we're now 4 or 5 hours by the time we get to round 4 into the day, right? So like it's even harder, right?
Yeah. I was gonna say like no, I don't think it was because of the timing. I just think I suck. I think I'm pretty good on managing like the stamina part of the event.
Yeah.
Like keep it like thinking about it throughout the day, like throughout the rounds. But yeah, like I think
it's
round
possible
4,
it can weigh on you without you realizing. But I think it could also just be, because like the thing that helps
it's affecting me, but
the things that can help with the control matchup, right, is like being able to rely on just like a fallback to a base plan, and it's like you built a deck that A has 3 plans, not 1, right, and B you built the day before, so it's like, but but it sounds like. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I could give myself some leeway on it, but I just like. Quick run through. It's like round 4. I missed 2 damage that made it lethal. I didn't do the math of how much damage I had if they all hit. Round 5. I just assumed Hawks didn't use his enhance, his once per turn, despite the fact the attack I'm looking at is a high attack.
And presumably did not start as a high attack.
Yes, yeah, literally. Like it was a focused attack for 33 damage, I think, and. That card's not a high attack. And then round 7 was the other like not a round that wasn't a win, where it was I didn't play around barrier. I was playing around barrier shield the whole turn, and then the final move to play around the barrier shield, I just threw it out the fucking window. And so yeah.
I'm guessing like we either didn't have any more ways to add speed, or we didn't like hold our swap or something like that.
Yeah, it was not holding the swap. I just fucked it up.
Yeah, but that sounds about right. It sounds like at the very least your rounds 4 through 8 were at least good information.
Yes, yeah.
So we kind of know how it went. So before we move on to some ideas post event, right? What do you think your favorite? Not necessarily best, but your favorite takeaway about the event, about the deck, or about testing in general, like that will help you out, throughout the rest of playing Universus or life, either one.
So, I mean, I guess like I'm just gonna like default to my quotes, I guess, because I wanted to reference some media that I think is like fun to look at if you're into other. Into card games or fighting games. And so Andrew Mengucci, a really decorated Magic pro player, was on a podcast called Humans and Magic. And he had this quote about his experiences with events, because he is someone that plays at a lot of Magic events. And it was, you take the you take the event, this like Magic weekend, not as a Magic tournament, but as a vacation. And so I really try to do that with any of the Universus events I'm at, because, quite literally, we cannot all win at the end of the day. It's just impossible. And
if I was organizing the event, I just want to put it on record, I'd let us all win.
Yeah.
Sorry, us, the MGLA. Everyone else can lose. I don't care about those guys.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got it. Yeah, join the team and then you can win. It's a fair trade.
But I mean, we're pretty open,
Yeah, for sure. We got a lot of people.
Exactly.
But yeah, so like it's just if you focus only on winning at these events, when you lose to something out of your control or something you didn't think about, it potentially can just be like really bad negative thoughts, like some self-doubt or self-deprecation or some, just thoughts you don't need to tangle with, because like being realistic, you can't win everything, right? And so I think it's like a privilege for the people that can attend these events to go to them. And so, having as much fun as you can at them and making it as enjoyable and memorable experience, I think is super important.
Sure.
And then the other quote, I at least wanted to say it for any fighting game players, is Daigo Umehara. He said in his, I didn't write the name of the book down, but he wrote a book.
It's his book though, right?
Yeah, it's his book. And the quote, tournaments are a playground for people who practice for growth. And that is also another, I think it's similar to the vacation thing in a sense, where it's like, winning, it is not just about winning, right? Like, I think I could have topped this event had I played a little bit better with this deck. But even, like, no matter what happens at this event, I got to use this experience to become a better player.
Yeah.
And also a better deck builder for any other time I look into Elder Toguro or any other character that might be similar to him or on symbol as him.
Yeah. I think obviously both are important to keep in mind. One of the things that has been a consistent thing we've talked about in these recaps is that it is all about having fun. As cool as it would be to be like Magic and have like a giant prize pool where it's like you don't even have to win to like theoretically make it your job. That's unfortunately not as realistic for our game, which means, I don't know, I think it takes an amount of the pressure off because it is more about having fun. You can lean more into that and not be upset about it, especially if you take it as a vacation, like you said, like you quoted from the other guy who said, we'll get there eventually.
We could even link them in the video profile. We could get the YouTube algorithm or something.
Well, because the Magic player definitely needs the hits from us. For sure.
We scratch his back, and then he'll scratch ours, right?
I will.
Like, surely.
I will absolutely link, because I did look up the name of the book. It is ironically The Will to Keep Winning, because that book is actually incredibly good. Daigo is like awesome fighting game player if anyone knows fighting game stuff. Also,
it's
just
also on
like
YouTube too.
What?
Like the audiobook. There's an audiobook of the whole thing on YouTube.
Who
if you
reads
just
it?
want to like podcast it? Yeah, sure. Well, why would we read our cards?
No. I said who. Oh. No, I was asking who reads the book, because I think it'd be really funny if Daigo, someone who is Japanese and to my knowledge does not speak English often, is reading it in English on YouTube.
Yeah. I don't believe so. I think it's just some guy reading it. I didn't actually click and listen to it yet, so not 100%.
Gotcha. But I absolutely love those quotes. I think those are great takeaways, and I think they link to your experience at the event very well, which is exactly what I was looking for. So moving on, I want to ask, first off, now that we're post-event, would you do this again? Like, would you do this like next year at one of the regionals? Like, is this how you would enjoy spending another event?
Oh, absolutely, dude. I might be doing this at Nats. Like, currently, I'm not a big fan of what we're looking at for competitive decks. I'm just like, man, these are not the guys I want to play.
We can do it before Nats, okay? Trust me. We can find it before Nats. I promise.
Yeah. Hopefully. But if we don't, okay, because you have to think about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, it's if you go to Nats and you top 8 with like Bert or Recovery Girl or Rodan, at least just like some off the dome or like whatever aggro deck you want to play, right? Like 6-9 aggro character.
Sure.
You'll be happy. You'll get to go to Worlds, right? But what if you go in with this crazy concoction and it goes well? You put your thought into it. You put some ideas into it, and it's your day. You get top 8. You get to go there and be like, we're so back.
We're so bad.
It's that easy.
You just get to say we're so bad. No. I do understand that sentiment, because I want to give like a little bit of like words of encouragement to anyone who does not love our format, as is unfortunately the case for a lot of our formats.
Yeah, I'm all ears. Tell me. Lay it on me.
A lot of people are comparing to like younger Toguro, a format I personally hated and took a deck to Vegas that I was not a fan of and like did not enjoy playing throughout the day. And that's one of my biggest regrets. I wish I took something that I enjoyed playing, right? But I think it's important to focus on if you don't enjoy playing the game that way, as cool as it is to go to Worlds, it's not end all be all. I think you should enjoy your Nats. Also, on the more pragmatic sense of things, I think you should probably enjoy your Nats more than you enjoy your Worlds, because you would know 2 weeks before Worlds that you got it to Worlds and still have to pay for yourself, and that's gonna be really expensive for a lot of people, I think. But you know, we're not here about Worlds or Nats. We're here for Atlanta. As much as I want to look forward to Nats, but I think the thing that I want to end on, because we're running out of time here for sure. The thing I want to end on is if you had to sum up advice, and I'll let you choose between deck building, testing, or events themselves for any new players, what would it be? Or even veteran players. They don't have to be new players. But.
Yeah, I mean, if veteran players want to take my advice, that's sick. Hell yeah. But honestly, I think it's don't be afraid to try something new, right? Don't be afraid to just look into the things that interest you. I know we definitely have some sort of limiting formats in terms of power level, but like I think this game really lends itself to exploration and creativity in a way that, like, we have so many characters, we have so many cards. Like, really, if there's something you have an inkling of that you like either really like, or I think there's something here, this character reads really powerfully, or these cards read really powerfully, like, just give it a try, right? Like, it is I think some of the most fun you can have with Universus, personally.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that'll be it. So unless you have anything else, anything you want to shout out specifically, other than the always got to shout out MGLA just for the video itself, please keep checking out our videos. We're definitely doing a lot more content. Check out the website. I forgot to link it last episode, but I'll link it this episode. I promise.
Yeah, for sure.
But is there anything you want to shout out?
Honestly, I'll probably say this every time I'm on video, like, just the community, like, everyone that I get to talk to in person on the Discords, like, it is such a awesome part of the community. Every single person I talk to in Atlanta, both in our team and outside of it, every person I talk to on Discord about anything, not just the game, like, it has been very, I have had a lot of joy and amazing experiences thanks to joining this game back in like 2021 or whatever it was. So.
Perfect. Yeah, I think our community is absolutely one of the best parts about this game, hands down. But yeah, I think with that, that'll be the end of our episode. However, we've gotten a little bit more structured, and by that I mean I've literally just asked who wanted to do theirs next week already, and thus no. So I want to give everyone a heads up that next week, lining up with just in time for TAM's Retro Wednesday Webcam Weekly, that is run the last Wednesday of every month. We are going to be having Frank's episode, where we'll be talking about all things retro with the Eternal King of Retro, the reigning Eternal King of Retro, as he is the last one to win a retro event at a big event.
Yes.
And so we'll be talking with Frank, everything retro. So if that's your cup of tea, make sure to join that one. But with that, we'll see you guys in the next one.